Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. It's going to be nice for you. My name is Mike Marujo. I'm the Director of Rhode Island Jobs and Justice, and we are here in strong opposition to both sub-minimum wage bills that would create a two-thirds wage for workers who work 20 and 18. There are a lot of statistics that do not bolster the position of the bill's sponsor. Firstly, the statistics cited by the EPI that studies the negative impacts of minimum wage increases states that teen unemployment increases when minimum wage increases. The fact of that statistic, though, is based on its timing. The statistic is conducted through a survey that is conducted in September of the year, and then the posting information is posted for the end of the year. It's not a full average for the year, so if you measure teen unemployment at the start of the school year, you see a drop in employment. Kind of stands to reason. The other issue is this idea that by lowering the wage, you're going to increase employment, and the reality is when you lower the wage, you increase the opportunity to employ more people at a lower wage. It actually acts as a drag. It goes against the whole principle that we have of a rising tide raising all boats. It's the exact opposite argument. In fact, it's undercutting the argument that we should pay people for their work. Then there's a clear argument that people should be paid equally for equal effort. The minimum wage was established as a living wage initially, and the idea that it's descended into this training wage of sub-value is really disturbing and something that leads to these conclusions that if we keep paying people less, then maybe we'll hire more, but there's no guarantee. In fact, the proof is contrary to that. Places where the minimum wage has increased, and the sharply increased, the sharply employment, we still have a consumer-based economy. We do not have a supply-side economy as much as legislation like this tries to create it. We depend on consumers being able to spend money in the marketplace. That's how we get jobs. I mean, that's the reality. On a personal note, when I was a teenager, when I was 14 years old, my father had Parkinson's disease. I had to go to work. I worked 3 jobs altogether. I worked at Louis Steiner on Brook Street. I worked for Kelly Funeral Home, and I worked as a landscaper on the side while going to high school. All of those jobs paid me minimum wage. None of them were enough to live on, but all of them were necessary. Would I be in a position as a 14-year-old to tell them I'm the sole breadwinner in the house when I had to work the minimum hours of each one of these jobs? I couldn't. I mean, I'm a 14-year-old who's frightened and doesn't know what to do. My family's survival depended on me getting the full wage that I was earning and was worth. The value of that dollar has decreased consistently over the year. The shopping basket that I could fill with those jobs is much, much smaller today than it was. And to make the value less for that worker, I don't know how to do it. There's so many parts of this bill that I feel like are just deeply insulting personally to me that I just kind of have a hard time not getting kind of emotional about it. Saying that one set of workers is worth 2/3 of another set of workers is a system that this country, unfortunately, has a lot of experience exploring. Jim Crow systems are simply not effective for wages or for society, period. If you do the work, if you come in and do work, you get paid equally. We like considering the idea that people are worth equally, yet we have all these points that show us otherwise. African-American workers don't get employed the same way that white workers do. Women don't get employed the same way, they tend to be paid less. Young workers tend to get paid less. Older workers tend to get fired faster. We have all these different points where we make a cut and say one set of workers is worth less than another, and yet now we want to add another point of cut to this. It doesn't seem fair in principle, and I feel like it flies in the face of running a good society. If you are saying on the one hand that you can't attract good labor, then pay more, not pay less. That's how that works. If you want your economy to be stronger, put more money in the economy. Don't sequester it. Don't hold on to those dollars. It has to be spread around. Wages are the representative part of the work that a worker performs. reforms to add value to that employer's business. To devalue the wages to increase the profit margin. To tell me that somehow magically employers are going to act on best behavior when we know through the history of the state that that's not the case. That when people have the opportunity to pay the base minimum, they will. And then when they have the opportunity to undercut that minimum, they will. If I got to the point in my age where a choice was being made between a 17-year-old and a 30-year-old or a 35-year-old, when we know that 65% of minimum wage workers are over 25, and that 30% of them are sole breadwinners, and that 45% make a contribution that keeps them afloat. And then the additional part, nobody works for fun, you work for wages. So to think that we can just dispose of this half to encourage employment is disingenuous. And also to think that there's a teen unemployment spike that happens when we increase minimum wage flies in the face of evidence, history, and the numbers. Teens work when work is available. However, wage rates and available unemployment is so low that older workers are holding on to jobs that they need to hold on to. It's not a matter of scarcity or opportunity, but we're shutting a certain door by doing this, and also increasing a sub-market that encourages abuse. I urge this committee to just completely reject the notion that there's a second-tier value to worker, and that we need to think of all workers and all citizens to be fully equal and worth the work that they earn. Equal pay for equal work. It's a foundational principle of the labor movement, but it's a foundational principle that undergirds every single thing we do. I know what I'm worth by the work that I perform. And to say that that worker who's standing next to me performing the exact same job is worth 2/3, we've had compromises that made fractions of humanity before. Let's not keep doing this. Let's not keep going down this road. Let's reject partial humanity for workers and treat everybody as full equals in the world.